Alright, so I did a video of this, which was when I first got it, which was quite a few months ago. So we surveyed our damage. We figured out it was going to be best to repair this with a frame. So it took some time to find one. I actually had one lined up and nothing came of it. It was months and months waiting. I just never got it. So we now currently have a frame. If you look at this, you can see, hopefully, that it's sitting not level, but dipped down in the right front, looking across it. So, we're starting with the back. Rear bumper, tailgate, bed. Alright, so, like I said, we did the tear down on this. You can tell by looking here even. We're high back there and it dips down here. I couldn't distinguish that when I looked at it because I had a flat tire and everything was covered. So we actually have a bend back here behind. Everything else looks pretty good. We've already got so like I said, that was our determination of to fix this right is to put a frame in here that is undamaged. All right, so we did do a timing cover on this and we got an alternator because it was broken up here. Our fan's on here. This thing moves, it runs around, it drives, does everything it's supposed to do. So we know everything is working perfectly. Close anyway. All right, so we have a frame here on the top that is ready to go from also a 2017, and we painted it up and it's clean. It's been sitting here now about 2 months. So we are getting ready to do. So with that said, tailgate comes off. They're pretty freaking easy. So is your taillights. When you pull these, they have these clips. You slide forward, then you're good. Bumper, 215s there, 215s here, and on this side. All right, so you have a plug for this, plug for this, plug for this, and a plug for the sensors. Then you have your bumper off. So I have some room over here in the back of this bed that's sitting here waiting to find a home or use. So we're going to be putting some stuff in there. We're going to be using the engine hoist to pick this bed up. There is 6 bolts that hold this on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I forgot, there's going to be plugs for these that are going to need to come out on both sides. Now 1, 2, 3, pull this out. That way that drops down and we can pick this thing right off. But you see me get that off. I'm going to show you how I pick the bed up with the engine hoist. I'm just going to do that and then I'm going to drive out from underneath of it, and then I can pick this up with the forks on the tractor because they like to pick up better because of the weight that is there from the backstop. And this bed is just way too nice to chance damaging. Okay, so there's a couple push clips down here that you want to get out. Unplug your lights, pull them down. Now these are the 2 bolts that go up in the front, so we still have these 2 here. I take and run straps crisscrossed and I put them on my engine hoist and pick my bed up. Well, she lost her hips. Haha. Bedless. I wonder how long that's been in there. All right. Well, there we go. The the bed is off. You can see how they looks just the same as the silver one. 2017. It says 5.7. Everything, all the labels are on it. Shows 4/26 2017. So this is probably the biggest design flaw of a Ram right here. these right here. They put these metal connections after with coated line right here, and well, you can see what happens. End up with a mess. Okay, so I should have went over some stuff before I got to this point, but I was busy dealing with this cute little thing here. This right here is Ruby. So Ruby, what? Come on. Ruby is 15 weeks old. She is the cutest little baddest puppy that's eating stuff she shouldn't, so I got to keep an eye on her while I'm doing stuff. All right, you stay here, hun. So, to get this cab up, as wild as this contraption is, getting it down is going to be a scary part. So, I want to try to hit a couple things that we had to disconnect. So, this went up in, plugged into the computer and stuff. We had our heater core hoses. I already disconnected the AC stuff. Well, looks like we got to fix. We need one of these valves. That's wild. Stuff you don't see till you get it out. And that is just because of how far it pushed it up into the tub right there. Alright, so there's that side. We had to undo everything here, hook to the battery, okay, because of that wiring harness. Our master cylinder. And there's also, where's it at? The steering shaft. So it wasn't really like a lot. And then you had, here's your e-brake cable. I loosened this here. This has to come out anyway, so I popped it. But these here, fold one of these tabs up a little bit and they slide right out. And then I just popped it out of the bracket here. All right, so I pulled all this to get everything out of the way. Pulled our neutral brake. Got everything else unplugged here. This one right here runs down along, actually plugs into the frame at the bottom, which was hiding underneath. Here. Oh, right there it is. All right, so we have the truck frame assembly pushed into the garage right now currently. I got my assistant out here. Come on, over here. My assistant here helping me today. So, busy working on getting down through here. I got the motor mount bolts here. We've got to remove those three. The front drive shaft, we have both. Exhaust is undone. O2 sensors are unplugged. We have a fuel line here. ABS is undone. Ground wire is off. Power steering harness is separated. Come on out here. This side, we got our motor mount bolts and we got our exhaust. I did get the 3 nuts for here. we have to get our drive shaft bolts out of the rear too. Engine hoist is ready to go. We are going to use some straps to pick this thing up out of here. Hopefully pull it forward just a little bit, then we can get sitting on the ground. And then, well, it's off to the races. Drop the fuel tank, get the rear suspension in one giant assembly. We're going to roll it off to the side. We're going to pull this exhaust from the rear, from the tail, all the way up to here, all in one piece. All right. Fuel tank will allow us some more room back here. Stop licking rusty stuff. Come on, get back. And then, like I said, the rear will just slide off all in one assembly. We'll probably let the wheels on it and everything. I can move stuff with the tractor. I can pick it up, stick jack stands under here, which will help with that. Drop our spare rear tire out, and then we can get the rest of this frame out of the way. We'll be down to just removing our front suspension, and then we'll pick our frame up. I'm on an angle, I know, from over there. We'll bring it in and we'll get it set. We'll have to, like, one of the first things we'll have to go in will be the exhaust, and then probably the rear suspension and the front suspension and stuff, so that we can get everything moving around. But hopefully today we can get at least enough of this done so we can shut this back door. You know, worst comes to worst, I thought about just cutting this thing in a couple spots, like I did with some other ones, and you know, then it's a whole lot easier to move. If it is all one piece, I just have to make a drive to the scrapyard. They'll pick the one whole complete frame off, and we're done. All right, well, we took it one step further here. Just had something going on where I couldn't run the camera, and we did get everything pulled apart. So to get it to this point when it was sitting in the chassis, we had two bolts here. Front drive shaft. There's 3 that go down into that front diff. There's 3 for your transmission cross member. Each one of the manifold bolts for the exhaust. 2 more over here. Now, we had to disconnect the power steering line, electrical stuff here. Okay, so we got that. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. We kind of got a morning shadow, but you can see how far, like this one here looks pretty straight, but it dips down also. So it's actually more, I think it's bent on that side a little bit when you look at this, because that is flat back at the trans cross member. This part here on the back ended up having a crack in it, so I just swapped that off of another one. So, I mean, other than this being cleaned up, we're going to, where's it at, this side here? Got exhaust manifold bolt there that we might as well address before we drop that back down in. So just take a look. So this is this way, along with this whole thing being bent. So we're here. So these actually, maybe other than keeping the tire from coming up in, they actually keep the bends to the front, possibly. Like you could have, probably could have, I don't know, separated it and did the front if you wanted to. You would think you might have been able to see in here, but I'm not seeing it. So it must all be over there, and it just has it all kinked up and flexed. So today, we're gonna get this thing pulled in. I did keep one of these because this has a crack in it, just in case, to get this replaced. I'm gonna pull it in, get our sway bar off, support this thing, pour wheels, axle bolts, tie rod ends, and then pull the lower bolts, the upper arm, and the strut all in one assembly, and we're gonna set it off to the side on both. I'm probably gonna leave the axles connected to the center differential. If you've ever messed with any of them, sometimes they don't come off here, so we just have to see how that is. We're going to clean stuff up. Rack will be really easy. It's just 2 big bolts, and once the tie rods are disconnected, it'll just drop right back down out. And then the front diff is pretty much the same scenario. It'll come right out. So that's everything on our front end. Sway bar is really easy. That's 4 bolts too. We will have to kind of play with the alignment when we get everything back into the other vehicle. But I do expect that it will need that, as I have the whole front suspension pulled apart. No big deal. And then in the rear, it's going to be pretty easy too. We've actually got our fuel tank off. We did start to have some of the rust eating away here. So that would have been something that would have happened long term, whether that was from sitting. This was actually a little bit, this truck was from a little bit north of me. Got some of our exhaust hangers undone. We've got to drop our spare. The rear, man, this thing's going to come out pretty easy. We got to undo our brake lines, track bar, and links, shocks, and then our front control arms. We'll pick up on the frame, roll the rear right out with the wheels on it, set it off to the side. And at that point, hopefully we can just drop the whole exhaust out all in one piece. I'll probably, since this one is coming apart, I'll probably knock this center trans cross member out to let this drop down, you know, instead of having to pick it up over. We'll have to see. I know you can do it. I've pulled them all together in one piece before. So if we get that all out, and then, you know, we're kind of down to the little things. So I'm going to try to maybe pick this frame up and then set it over somewhere else. Then I can work on getting like all of the brake lines swapped over and the fuel lines, emissions lines and stuff. And then we'll get our harness swapped over to the new frame and everything in where it needs to be. And then, you know, we're down to sticking the exhaust in, putting our rear suspension in, and, you know, just getting it together from there. The worst part is, I think the fuel tank's pretty darn full of fuel, so I'll probably end up draining that and putting it in something just to make it easier to reinstall that. But this is a large job, but it's not very complicated. Getting this picked up was probably one of the hardest things, just due to the weight and the size of this. All right, so basically, like I said, we started with our control arms. We got our axles unbolted. We left them together like this. Just seemed to work out better. Dropped our rack. Well, I think we got the sway bar off first because of the end links being turned in because the suspension was down, so they had them tight against the frame. Not only that, the little bit of the tweaking of the suspension made it close. So everything came apart really good here on the passenger side like I wanted it to. And the rear, or the diff, was the last part. But we ended up into a problem here, which is a pretty common scenario. The fact that my frame's no good. I just pulled this out like this, so I'm going to try to see what I can do to actually get this removed out of here. Obviously this bolt, the camber bolt, these things do get stuck. They do sell replacements. I got a bunch of them, so I don't have any worries about getting one, but the worst part is getting it out of this control arm. I did hit it there a little bit, but we did cut. Basically, I just cut through it, got it out. So now we can move back to the rear end and start working on this. So I'm gonna get together the tools that I need out here and start working at picking at this. We're gonna get our rear tire off, and then we'll get this supported, get some jack stands up underneath in here in the front. All right, so I had about an hour or so getting the front apart outside of having to cut that. Now for the rear, like I said, pretty easy. I set everything here to one side, everything's sitting over there. We did our shocks, our end link, our brake lines, pulled all the wiring off of here, did our control arms, sway bar end links, and everything's off. The frame is pretty much good, except for, like, I'll probably steal some of these body mounts. I have some other ones I'm just going to pick out what is best and use them. So we're just going to let this down with the tractor, hopefully get it pulled back some. Here's our exhaust, our cab, and the rear differential. Works out pretty good like that, I believe. So, back over to this. All right, so I'm gonna let this jack down. We're gonna move this thing out of here. I'm gonna grab a fresh frame. We're gonna get it installed. Okay, we have our new frame ready to go. So far I've got the front diff in and the right front suspension. I got the top tight because that's fine. We still have some adjustments that'll need to be made down here. So we're getting that in. I do want to put these lines on, but we have this small issue here with this one bolt being stuck in here. So this is where we gotta try to get this out. I do have another bushing if I need to press one in. That's not beyond any capability that I have, but hopefully we can just get that slid out. Everything else that's here looks usable. I mean, it's used stuff, so it'll go back on. We did have to swap over some of these body mounts because I did remove everything off of this frame. But so far, like I said, we only did a couple things, and then once we get that on, we can work on getting the harness in. All of our lines can be installed. And my goal is to, if I can get the front of this taken care of here and roll it in to the point where I had the other frame on the back, I'll be able to jack it up. I can roll that right over underneath. I can install the rear suspension. Then we'll have a full rolling frame. We'll be down to, like I said, I'll have to drain our fuel tank pretty full, and then we can get that reinstalled and just move through the processes here of getting this thing back together. All right, so we're getting closer and closer. So I got pretty lucky with the control arm here. I did want to save it, but I ended up, the bolt that was here, I cut the head off. All right, cut the threads off, removed the control arm, and actually stuck it in the press and pressed the bolt through that way, put a socket on the other side, and then just used another bolt here to finish pressing it through. Cleaned out the hole. Everything's anti-seized. If somebody has to take this apart to replace anything here, especially with these like to seize in the arms too, they can do that, especially on this side. All right, so I did get the ABS unit on. Lines are in. We tucked up our whole exhaust. That is now installed. We are getting very, very close. I can't get the sway bar on till I get some weight on it, maybe, to get that aligned. And then I got to try to, I'm going to look at my other truck, and I'm just going to guesstimate a location of, I guess that would be, because that's going to affect in and out. So that's like a camber or caster adjustment, I guess, on the lower arm. So we're going to eyeball that, get that where it needs to be. I have another ABS unit actually sitting there. Hopefully it came in the camera. We're going to unbolt this one. We're just going to swap it. Cross our fingers. I did read some stuff where people were replacing this and needing to reprogram things. So hopefully, fingers crossed, because this has this crack here. It's just not something you want to do, especially if you have the parts. Replace them with something good. It's like replacing this frame is fixing this right, okay? But we should have everything tucked up here in the front end here. Can't wait to see what it looks like. All right, we are at the time of dropping the engine in. I got everything jacked up. I didn't do the exhaust manifold. I'm just going to do it when I drop it in. But we have a uncracked ABS unit installed. I just pulled this one off of, actually, a 2018. Had 60 on it. We have our wiring harness installed. Everything is good to go back here. I got this bracket straightened out. Everything is assembled. All the brakes are put together. We will still have to bleed this out. I can't find my one. I gotta grab a end link bolt for that side, which is weird. How do you lose it when you set everything here and everything there? And like I said, we're down to, that's what we got. That's for that. That's extra. Then we have these. This is actually extra. And I got a nut. It was an extra bracket because I think I have it actually sitting over here. Yeah, right there it is. So I have 2 of those. But I'm getting this thing lifted up. I'm gonna roll the freaking engine underneath this thing. We're gonna get it dropped down in place. All right, well, we got a little carried away here. We've got everything bolted back in place. We got our motor mounts. Everything sat back down in really nice. Drive shaft. I didn't even bother getting the fuel tank drained. I just used 2 jacks. It slid right in perfect. It was so nice. It's just nice looking at this thing with no bent frame. It is such an amazement. Everything, like I said, I got everything back down in here. We'll have to move some of these wires when we roll this back in. Get everything here together. This thing, just great. So, I believe I got it pretty lined up. Ooh, actually, the hitch went under because I put a hitch under there so I could pick it up and move it. I was moving the back side to side. All right, so cab swap's finished up. I got the bed set on. Next thing is going to be I got to finish tightening the bed up, put the tailgate and a bumper on, and then we're going to work on getting these aprons swapped out. But you can see just how much here this is off. The truck is actually sitting so much nicer, good and even and level, which is exactly what we wanted to see. By accomplishing this, you could see a lot of the bend in the other frame. So I'll show getting one of these aprons on, and then we'll get everything. Basically, I'll spot weld these out, lift this out of the way, get these off, set the aprons in, get the bolts started, and I'll put a core support on, get everything lined up where it needs to be, and then I'll get all this welded in place and tack those other covers on, get everything painted up and assembled. Still got to do our inner exhaust manifold down here yet. One broken bolt. Hopefully in the next day or 2 we'll be on this. I'm getting ready to pull this cover, the lift down that we used to pick this thing up, and get this thing done. It's ready to see some usage, man. It's a shame this thing's been sitting so long. What was it, I think? We were... Ooh. I can't even read the back of these. Basically this ran out in 23, so this was inspected in 22. And this thing, I don't know what the inspection mileage was. Ran a Carfax, it'd probably come up. But it was inspected in 22, and I guarantee they didn't put that many miles on it. This thing's been sitting since then. It's currently, you know, we're getting ready to go into 2026. It's October 25. And it's ready to get some miles.